Hello and welcome to Outdoors in Scotland. I'm John Burns, and this is my podcast for everyone who likes to be outdoors in Scotland or anywhere else for that matter. I'm talking to you today from a very wet, cold, and miserable Inverness. We're in the grip of yet another named storm. I don't know where all these named storms come from, but I'm not finding them very good companions at the moment, really. But I think that's what we've got to put up with. I'm very honoured to have my guest today. The man I'm going to introduce today was climbing before I was born. And when you consider I'm 70, that's a fair old feat, really. And he's still very active and writing today. I'm talking to Dennis Gray. We're going to be talking about his new, amongst other things, his new book, Essays from the Edge, 50 Years of Mountain Writing. Dennis is probably one of the most experienced mountaineers around pretty well anywhere, I would say, right now. Hello, Dennis. How are you?
Thanks for contacting me. Very good. Yeah, thank you very much.
Lovely to speak to you. Lovely to speak to you. Some of your writing in the essays from the Edge, you really go back over 50 years, and you talk about climbing in the 70s with the likes of Don Willans and Joe Brown, real sort of, I suppose, giants of the British mountaineering scene. Was the 70s feel looking back on that now seems like a golden age for British mountaineering? What do you think?
Well, everything changes so much in life.
Yes.
And when I started climbing, very, very young, I was only 11. And
Okay.
I went to Ilkley, and it was an accident, actually. I'd arranged to go with a crowd of young people from Woodhouse, where I lived. And a bus used to come to Hyde Park Corner, close by, and take us out to Ilkley. It was a company called Leggers, a private bus. This is after the war, and so
Uh-huh.
there was no public buses. For some reason, none of the kids got on this bus except me. I was traveling half price, and the bus stopped again a few miles up the road at northern part of Headingley, and a guy got on the bus called Freddie Williamson. And over the years, I got to know him quite well and went out to Ilkley. And of course, he was already a climber. And I went up to the rocks at Cowan Car with him. And after a bit, they asked me, he introduced me to the other climbs, if I'd like to go over to Rocky Valley and do a climb. It's about 6 miles across the moor,
Right.
Rocky Valley, away from the main quarry at Ilkley. And so I went over there, and it's just one climb. It's called He's a Chimney. It's a chimney climb. It's a V-dip. And I was right down my wits. So I was only about 11 years old. But I decided then, as I got home that night, I was going to become a climber. That's how I started climbing. Yeah.
Very
And
good.
so I kept meeting Freddie Williams on the bus on a Sunday morning. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, right. And that would have been climbing, I presume, with pretty, well, basic or almost non-existent gear. Is that right?
Very basic. And uh, people just tied on the rope. And of course, there wasn't even nylon ropes. People using sisal ropes.
Wow.
You
Okay.
have to buy them from a company it's called Cars, and they're used for pulling barges.
Oh,
And
right.
so they're
Okay.
very thick sisal rope, yeah. And we used to get about 40, 50 feet. That's all, because their climbs were only short at
Yeah.
Ilkley.
Yeah.
We used to go to Ilkley, and I went there every Sunday for about a year, and I got to know all the climbers. And I was by far there wasn't hardly any young people climbing those days.
Oh,
And
right.
now, if you go to a climbing centre, there's dozens of kids about 11, 12, 13, 14 years
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
climbing. Yeah.
Well, participation has probably grown enormously. But looking back on sort of those years as things developed, I mean, I can remember, I suppose it would be in the 70s, where when Joe Brown, Don Willans, people like that were known to the public. They were public figures. I think they called Joe Brown the human fly, didn't they?
the human fly. It was in the tabloids, picture of him, the human fly.
I bet he got some ribbon for that, didn't he?
And there's a picture of Willans in Stockport Gazette. I was in Manchester for 2 years on national service. I used to in a special office. We paid officers. We paid every officer in the British Army, from second lieutenant up to field marshal. We paid for our office, yeah.
Oh,
And
right.
we had a staff of about 100 people. A lot of them were civil servants. I was there, and I lived in Digt, the army organised,
Yeah.
was just round the corner from Joe Brown, where he lived with his mother.
He was
Yeah.
just a boy then, I suppose, you know?
Well, he was older than me. He'd be about 21, 22 then. And
Right.
I was 18, yeah.
Okay, okay. I'm presuming in
Sorry.
those days that you perhaps didn't have the kind of cash around that people had. You must have had to make do with a lot of things.
Yeah, gear was very, very simple. By this time there was nylon ropes, so
Right.
people tied on the. But we used to tie on direct on the rope. We tie on, for instance, Wilders did the first ascent of this very impressive route at the Roaches, uh,
Oh, yeah.
and I did the second ascent of them with Joe. And when I think about it now, all we had was, just a rope. And he put a slinger on the block, but there was nothing else. And now, of course, people will put lots of modern equipment in.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And
think,
what's incredible is how equipment's added a lot over the years. Uh, Somebody asked me this week about all the different kinds of climbing, and I explained to them that bouldering was entirely different than lead climbing,
uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
and that, for instance, sports climbing,
Yeah, yeah.
and there was no such thing as sports climbing when I first went, to Manchester for national service when I was 18. But people just climbed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it was the one of the things you could do in those days, I suppose, was there was a lot of opportunity for exploration because a lot of places
Oh,
probably.
of course, yeah. And people like Brown were doing new climbs every weekend. And what changed things dramatically was the change in 1949 of the access to the countryside. Because places in Derbyshire, for instance, like Frogger Edge,
Uh-huh.
before 1949, you were forbidden to go climbing there.
Oh,
It was
right.
private land.
Right.
And it's the same with Curver. It was same with Stanage. If you read my article in this essays, you'll read about there was a confrontation
Yeah.
when local climbers tried to climb at Stanage, and they were driven off by the police with dogs and everything. And that was in the very early 1940s. Yeah.
That seems almost absurd these days. So that's amazing that you know.
In 1949, it opened up all these edges in Derbyshire, for instance, and Joe had a pool day. It's going to places like Progget, Kirkham, and Chatsworth, and doing new climbs every weekend.
Because the world was your oyster in a way once that happened, I suppose.
Well, it was a small world, really, in that, for instance, somebody was asking me how somebody like Joe Brown
Hmm.
got from Manchester to Wales, and he hasn't got transport. When I first, even when I went to Manchester to do national service, he hadn't got transport. We
Right.
used to go on the buses. Nobody had a car. We used to catch the last bus from Manchester out to the Peak District on a Friday night. Yeah,
And where would you sleep then? Where did you stay?
in a barn. We knew all these places that you could, do what we call dot. And
Yeah,
we used
yeah.
to in the barns, yeah. And for instance, in Wales, there was a road mender's hut in Longbury Pass.
Oh, right.
We used to sleep in the road mender's hut. Yeah.
There must have been a very strong sense of community in those days amongst
Oh
the.
yeah, yeah. People used to share. And for instance, on a weekend, as a young climber, started going to the lake every weekend. This is before I had to do national service. I was only 15, 16. And I used
Right.
to hitchhike from school out onto the road and hitchhike up to the Lake District.
Oh,
And
really? Wow.
on a Friday, and I used to go to Wallen Barn with all the other climbers and say I would take a couple of tins, say rice pudding or something else, say rice pudding, and somebody else would have a tin of stewed steak, and we'd all, mixing together. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And
And we knew everybody. The amazing thing was, it's a small world. And the number of times, was just a few thousand when I first started.
yes, it must have been it must have pretty well known everybody who's
Yeah.
climbing,
I got to know all the climbers at Ilkley, and they were very mixed each crowd. And some of them I only knew by the nicknames. For instance, one guy who I claimed was called Lazarus, and I never knew his name, his proper.
Did he rise from the
Because
dead?
I
Did
was only about 14 or 13, and so I then asked him what his proper name was. So I claimed it Lazarus.
So if we could fast forward a bit now, if you don't mind. So when did you begin to climb in the Himalayas then? When was your first experience
Well,
with that?
what happened was I was in Derby. I studied at the art college and printing college in Leeds, and a firm used to pay for me. I was, if you like, an apprentice really,
Yes.
and I did printing techniques, and I specialised in fine art. And I went to Derby, and because in Derby there was a massive printers for the family, Benrose. They owned 5 factories around the country. But
Right.
one of the things they did specialise in fine art reproduction. They
Hmm.
had a special unit, plate gravure. You've got to know that printing techniques to understand about plate gravure. It was when you look at a picture of most printing, it's half done. You get a lithographic half done. In plate gravure, it was always used screens with 3/4 tones. And so therefore you could get very, very dark art pictures. And for instance, we did Salvador Dali. We did a Rembrandt from Rijksmuseum Museum in Amsterdam and so forth. And when I was in Derby, I got to know the climbers there through the Oriad Club.
Right.
And they were organising in 1961 a trip to the Himalayas, and they asked me if I was interested in being a member of it, and I joined this. That was the first time I went in 1961, and we were all very young, and there was 6 of us, and we got on a boat from Liverpool to Bombay, and then we went by train up right to North India and climbed in the Kulu Valley. And we climbed in the Himalayas there. And I did two very good climbs there with a guy called Ray Handley. I did the Manicaran Spires. And they were only 18,000 feet, but they were incredible rock spires. And
Right.
I've got pictures of it, of the Manicaran Spires, yeah. And that was the first time I went to the Himalayas in 1961.
I mean, how old were you then?
I was 25. Yeah.
Right, still pretty young, and I mean, it must have been an incredible experience to go there.
Well, obviously going to India, but although I grew up in a very poor working class area in Leeds, my
Right.
family came from a very wealthy background in the entertainment industry. My
Oh,
father was on the stage all his life. He was on the northern pub circuit and also small theatre, and doing stand-up comedy, playing the piano, singing, and also. We once had a rock and ice meet at my house in 1958, and Joe Brown and Williams and everybody was there. my father played the piano and sang for them all and everything. And they all dust down in the house. And we climbed it luckily at cook rates and the arms go. Yeah, lots of the people we were climbing it. And we all dust down at my house in Winners. And
Amazing.
that year we'd all been in the Alps. We did to Chamonix. Yeah.
Ah, right. Okay. 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 So you never felt drawn to the stage yourself then?
Well, I made two records of climbing songs.
Really? I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. I've got one which is called the Barroom Mountaineers,
Right. Okay.
and I think there's 10 songs on it.
Right.
And I played the tenor banjo and the ukulele on this,
Right.
yeah. And we got other people to take part as well, yeah.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that was very prevalent when I started playing was the climbers sang and all the walkers sang, the people who went hill walking and so forth. On the evening, they'd all get together, say they were sleeping at a youth hostel or a climbing hut,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they'd have a sing song.
No, that's very different from today,
And
isn't
there's all these songs that people knew. One of the songs that was very popular, and I still get people sending for me to send a copy. It's The Legend of Joe Brown.
That's a song, is it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I'll try and lay my hands on that somehow. It
Well,
sounds,
I'll send you a
that
copy.
would be great. That'd be
Send you,
fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
Uh,
brilliant. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Oh,
something I wasn't thinking of. Lots of people get in touch with you but want a copy of it, yeah.
well, that sounds great.
Especially people, a guy who's got in touch with me from America a lot is Rick Akamoto. And he's just had a book of the Bowman Tasker. And
Right.
his book it's all about the stonemasons. A developed kind
Oh,
in
yes. Yes. The
California
climbed in
and
Yosemite.
Yosemite and things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Rick is now in Denver,
Oh,
and he was across here last week for
right.
the ball and Tuscany. I couldn't go, and because of my illness, I can't travel. I was a trustee of the ball and Tuscany. I was founder of the ball and Tuscany, and of course, Peter Baldwin worked for me when I was general secretary of the VMC.
Wow. Okay.
Peter worked for nearly for 3.5 years for me. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Then he was followed on by Alec McIntyre.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, right. I suppose you better mention your book, Essays from the Edge, because this is obviously not your first book, though, is it? You wrote Rope Boy? That was a
yeah.
long time ago now.
Rick Eckham also has got in touch with me about Road Point because he's read it, and he wanted to know all about the. Uh, he was Tom Petty with T.M. Nerver. He's very famous in America, T.M. Nerver. He
Right.
did
Okay.
Descent in Yosemite,
Okay.
but he was very famous as a person who, was very witty, very funny. I climbed with him. I went to Yosemite and climbed with TM. And
Wow.
TM used to make fun of everything and everybody. And so was very well known in America. And Ricky Akamoto wrote to me early this week. He
Oh, right.
wanted to compare. When he got back to Denver, he was reading the book by Tom Petty
Yeah.
about the songs and the writing. I don't think you read Peter's book.
One man's
One
mountain.
Man's Writers, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, what inspired you to put together It's a collection of features that you've written over the years, isn't it? This new book.
Well, this book, Essays, has come about very, very strange. What happened was Kate Morside,
Uh-huh.
she has written the uh, biography of Doug Scott.
Right.
And to do that, she came here and interviewed me.
I see.
And then about a year ago, she got in touch with me and said, I just thought of putting together my essays and articles into a book. And I said, wrote her back and said, no. And she said, I would be willing to edit it if you let me have the articles.
Yeah, yeah.
I will put them together and edit them all. I thought this is what I did, and that's how the book came about. I never ever intended doing this book. Yeah,
Right. Well,
but
it's a great retrospective, though, isn't it? I mean, you've got for talking about the characters, people like Don Willens and Joe Brown.
yeah, Rod Robbins. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you've met some of all the foremost climbers in those days, really. Yeah, but you were telling me earlier that you were involved in the development of a climbing wall. Is that right? One of the
yeah.
first climbing
In
walls.
1995, a group of us set together and formed a company, and eventually managed to get a property in Leeds and Geldon Road, and
Right,
we opened as a climbing centre at the end of 1995, the Leeds Wall. It's now called the Big Depot by,
and that
by this company. And what happened was I was very ill with this uh, cancer, and
right,
I couldn't be involved anymore. And the guy who was taken over from me, Eric Rhodes, he was originally he climbed from Sheffield, and he
right,
came to live in later work for Yorkshire Water,
right.
and he also developed cancer, and he died. And so we hadn't got anybody to take over, and so we decided to sell the wall, and we sold the wall to the Big Depot. Yeah.
Right, right. I mean, I wouldn't have thought you could have foreseen all those years ago when you started that wall, just how popular and how far climbing walls have
Well,
developed.
it was incredible. The first year was a very bad year. We hardly got
Right.
people in the wall,
Yeah.
especially in summer. But suddenly, within the second year, it started being full every night. It became so full that people used to queue outside because we were limited by the number, by health and safety, how
Yes.
many people we could have in. And the maximum was 200. And we used,
200. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
so we got 200 people inside and about 20, 30 people waiting outside for somebody to come out, and they went in. Yeah,
That's amazing, isn't it? Isn't it really?
all this happened within a year, 2 years,
Incredible.
completely changed. And as I say, within 10 years, we started having people who never climbed outside. They
Yeah,
just went to climbing walls. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
And
it's a
a guy
different
comes
story.
here to visit me, Phil Dutson. He was secretary on the Leeds Wall. And Phil is a very interesting person. He's just written a book, was published. Besides, he's a playwright.
Okay.
It's written about three plays, and he was managing director of the IT company, and he was headhunted from Cambridge, and he came here for Leeds, and it's a company set up jointly with the university, and it was developed IT. They've got 100 programmers now. They've got a place down by the river, special building built, and it's a real dynamic person. But he hardly ever climbs outside. He still climbs. He must be nearly 60, and
Uh-huh.
he climbs. And he was here about 2 weeks ago, came to see me, and he'd been to a bouldering wall. You know,
Right, right. Well,
in Leeds now, there are 7 walls in Leeds.
there are
Seven,
seven, really. I didn't know
seven.
that. Yeah.
5 bouldering walls and 2 leading walls. And
Wow.
one of the leading walls is the cliff and climb for the children. Yeah.
Well, it's great that the walls have made climbing a lot more accessible for everyone, really.
Yeah, well, when I look back now and I think it's attracted a lot of people into the sport.
Yes.
I have no feeling at all about the outdoors and about climbing as a
Yeah.
developed traditionally,
Yeah.
and they very much orientated on just the performance on the climbing ones. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a
And of
different
course,
thing.
younger people this business have been getting super fit diets. They're so fit serious. They
Yeah.
come to the climbing wall, they climb on the wall, they go home to bed.
Yeah,
Don't have
yeah.
to go
Well,
to the pub.
well, I can remember when climbing used to be fun, you know.
Uh, uh, and
No,
of course, somebody like Mullins, he became, unfortunately, he became an alcoholic
yeah.
last few years. Yeah.
Well, it's quite a
But
character.
he was an incredible climber when he was young. Yeah. When he was 20, early 20s, 25.
Of
Yeah.
all the climbers you've seen, who would you say was the most gifted? Did you
Who's
see
the most?
the most talented, the most able?
Joe Brown. Yeah.
Joe Brown. And why
Yeah.
would you say that?
All he was best rock climber in every kind of conditions I've ever climbed in,
Right.
especially in bad weather. These climbs he did, say in 1951,
Yeah.
and the reason he was climbing in bad weather was it was such a job to get to somewhere like Wales. You used to catch a train on Friday night after
Right.
work.
Right.
I
Right.
used to go by train to Llandudno Junction, sleep there on the station, and then hitchhike from Llandudno in the morning up to Llanberis
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you climb. And that was say in 1951. He did the first ascent on Coggy of the boulder, and he did it in really bad conditions. The second was Ron Mosley, and Ron Mosley couldn't second it because it was wet and greasy.
Right.
And yet afterwards, Mosley did it in good conditions easily.
Right.
And yeah, Brown was incredible. He could climb. I did the corner on Coggy with him once when it was wet through. It was like climbing up soap. And how he managed to lead it in those conditions, I don't know. I was on a tightrope all the way. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing.
And
Amazing.
yeah, I led the climb before this easily in perfect conditions. So Brown was, as very young, I climbed with Dolphin and Harold Oslo and Peter Greenwood, and they
Right.
were all very good climbers. Dolphin was the best climber in our area, and he was really outstanding. But he was not as good as Brown. Brown was absolutely incredible as a rock climber. I never saw anybody as good as he was. He was even better than Willens. Willens was probably predominant on very overhanging ground, on
Uh-huh.
very ground. Yeah,
Very strong, presumably.
he's
Yeah.
very very aggressive. Yeah,
Yeah.
Don, and he's very assertive. It didn't matter to me because I grew up in a very, very poor area of Leeds,
Aye.
and the kids were all like him. They're aggressive
I didn't
and
know there were many
lots
people
of
like
fights, lots of fights.
Oh
Yeah.
God. It's been fascinating talking to you. We're running out of time, unfortunately. I could talk to you for a lot longer, I think.
Well, that's very, very kind of you to get in touch. And
Oh,
of
it's been
course,
brilliant. It's been brilliant.
I'm antediluvian.
You do
Such
it.
an old stager now.
I think
But
you do.
it's very good because people still get in touch. I got today. I got the Vaughan Tasker, the
Yes.
the the people who are acting as secretaries are Janet and Steve Dean, and Steve gets in touch with me regularly, and he sent me the book about John Newbank. I don't know if you've seen it.
No.
Newbank. Well, I knew Newbank. He was from Chipley, and I met him when he was 15 at Elkley, and he said to me, "Oh, I'm really fed up." I said, "Why?" He said, "I'm having to go out to Australia, and there's no climbing there." And then, of course, when he got to Australia, he found out there's climbing everywhere.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Listen,
Everywhere.
thanks very much for talking. It'd be fantastic, and I really hope your book does well. It really will deserve.
Thank you very much for
An
that.
absolute pleasure.
It is going very well. The hardback, it's sold out.
Really,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, I'm sure it'll do it.
No,
Great
the
stocking filler.
paperback
I
is
should say it this
still
time of year.
available.
Okay. Okay. Dennis, great. Thank you very much for talking to me.
Thank you very
Lovely.
much indeed.
Absolutely lovely. Thank you very
All
much.
the best.
Well, that was an absolutely wonderful little interview to do with Dennis Gray there. I really enjoyed talking to him. Imagine a world, right? Where people got together, shared food, and sang songs together just for the joy of it. Hey, that's a long way away, isn't it, really? It just feels like another world. Um, Dennis talked there about Tom Petty's song as a tribute to Joe Brown, the legend of Joe Brown. I'm very pleased to say he's let me have a little loan of it. So I'm going to play you out with Dennis Gray singing The Legend of Joe Brown. Before I do, to all my listeners, I hope you have a lovely Christmas. I hope the weather picks up. I hope it gets cold and there's not a lot of snow. But if there ain't, we can always watch the telly, I suppose. We could even sing a few songs, who knows? But very nice to talk to you. I do hope you've enjoyed this little podcast, and I'll see you on the other side of Christmas. Here's Dennis Gray.
Many tales are told of climbers bold who perished in the snow. But here's the rhyme of a rise to fame of a working lad called Joe. He came from good old Manchester, that quaint old-fashioned town, and his name became a legend, the legend of Joe Brown. And he first laid hands upon a crag in the year of 49. He'd no but plucked beginner's luck and his mother's washing line. But he scaled the Gritstone Classics with unprecedented skill, and his fame soon reached Pennygirrid, likewise the Dungeon Gill. I've sung it once, I'll sing it twice, hardest man of the rock and ice, marvellous, fabulous, a wonder man Joe Brown. In the shades of Dinas Cromlech, where luckless leaders fall, the corner it was towering high, Joe uncommon small. But his heart was big as a mountain, and his nerves were made of steel. So it had to go, or so would Joe, in a monumental peal. Then he crossed the seas to Chamonix to show what he could do. He knocked 3 days off the very best time of the west face of the Drew. On the unclimbed face of the Blaetier, the crux had tumbled down. So he cracked the crux by the crucial crack now known as the Fisher Brown. We've sung it once, we'll sing it twice, hardest man in the rock and ice, marvellous, fabulous, a wonder man Joe Brown. When Evans raised his volunteers for faraway Nepal, 'twas young Joe Brown, he hurried down to answer to the call. On mighty Kanchenjunga his country's banners blow, and the lad who took the standard there was of course young Joe. In the cold, cold Karakoram, the crags are 5 miles high. The best in France, they saw their chance, they could pass him on the sly. You can talk of Paul Keller, Contamine or Parago, but the man of the hour on the Mustang Tower was known as Monsieur Joe. We've sung it once, we'll sing it twice, hardest man in the rock and ice, marvellous, he's fabulous, a wonder man Joe Brown. He's like a human spider when he's crawling up the wall. Suction, faith, friction, there's nothing else at all. But the secret of his success is his most amazing knack of hanging by a hand jam in an overhanging crack. But some say Joe Brown, he's sinking down to mediocrity. Why, he's even climbed with useless types like Patey and me. And he's lost the pace to stay the race and keep up with the van. And Baron Brown, that tragic clown, he's now an also-ran. We sung it once, but let that suffice for the faded flower of the rock and ice. What's he doing? He's going off canoeing. Is long gone Hand Jam Joe. Thus spake Martin Boyson and young Basingle too. A ranting Alan Austin, Peter Motley Crew. When from the outer darkness a voice like thunder spake, and Baron Brown with angry frown from slumber did awake. He's shown 'em once, he'll show 'em twice, the grand old man of the rock and ice. He's marvellous, he's fabulous, he's a wonder man, Joe Brown.